sleep. Which is funny enough because I just woke up. I like to film ASMR in the morning. Because about 5 p.m. I start to slow down, and then by 7 or 8 I'm done for the day. But in the morning I have energy, so I can make ASMR videos. I also have, for an extra boost of energy, I've got a cup of coffee. And I enjoy coffee very much. I've talked about it before in some previous videos. That I typically stick with Peet's coffee that I just get from the store because that's what my mom drinks. I thought about it. Both my parents, my mom and my dad, they stick to their coffee. My mom, Peet's coffee. My dad is a Folgers guy. And that's all they drink. They don't deviate. And you know what? They are divorced. So I thought, let's break the cycle. Let's leave the binary and try something else. So I did. Okay, actually I went to get it. I'm trying a new coffee. French vanilla. Now, this is just Kroger brand. I actually got a few other types of coffee. I went to Ralph's. Do you know that grocery store? I'm originally from Texas, but I moved to Southern California, as people do, and I miss H-E-B a lot. H-E-B is like the big grocery store in Texas. Since coming out here, I have a Ralph's by my house, so I go to Ralph's, and then I guess Kroger. I don't really know. There's like a hierarchy in this grocery store monopoly that dominates the US, and I think Kroger is the big brand, and then Ralph's is part of that. I don't know. I really don't know the politics of the grocery store, but they sell French vanilla, and I thought, oh yeah, let me try that. Turns out it's great, so wonderful. Although, to be fair, I'm not picky about coffee, pretty much at all. You could give me the driest, grossest gas station coffee, and I don't think I could tell you what it is. I really don't think I could tell you where it came from. I really like McDonald's coffee. I even got coffee from Taco Bell once. Did you know they sell coffee? Taco Bell has coffee. I guess that makes sense because they started selling breakfast. But there's something about getting a coffee from Taco Bell first thing in the morning. But I like it. French vanilla. This is nice because I drink my coffee black when I'm at home. I don't use any cream or anything. So I saw this and I thought, perfect. Let me have a little bit of flavor. And it's really nice. It's really subtle, but great. I'm also very ignorant when it comes to coffee, and I'm like, how do they get the vanilla in the bean? Why do some beans taste different than other beans? I don't know what this means. This is a medium roast. I think I know what that means. I'm not gonna tell you though. Okay. This is my coffee I'm having. I haven't had a drink or a sip of it yet, but I have it. I'm already pretty awake though. I'm kind of a morning person. But French vanilla. Cheers. Cheers, everybody. Actually, nope, it's burning hot. I can feel it. Okay. Let's talk about 24/7 is a book by Jonathan Crary, and it was put out by Verso Publishing. Verso is actually my favorite publishing house. If they're not explicitly socialist, they definitely lean socialist, or at least anti-capitalist. Verso puts out a lot of work of critical theory, political theory, cultural criticism, history, that type of thing. And this book is no exception. It's categorized as philosophy/politics. And I kind of group all these kinds of books together as theory books, because that's really what they are. Whether it's a theory of philosophy or political theory, it's a theory. Meaning he's not really stating a lot of facts, a lot of data or scientific research. He is pulling conclusions from certain studies, but he's really more analyzing the culture we live in the West, and offering some insights about it that are his own and taken from other scholars, and I really appreciate that. So, what is it about? Well, it's really about societies, or the 24/7 culture of capitalism, the fact that it never sleeps, and also about sleep. Quite literally, sleep, but also what sleep can stand for metaphorically, or as a symbol. So, I want to just read like a sentence in the back, and then I kind of marked some spots that I really liked and I want to talk about. I hope you find this relaxing, and if you're interested in these kinds of topics, that's a bonus. Okay, let me read the back. Sleep is a standing affront to capitalism. That is the argument of Jonathan Crary's provocative and fascinating essay, which takes 24/7 as a spectral umbrella term for round-the-clock consumption and production in today's world. The human power nap is a macho response to what Crary notes is the alarming shrinkage of sleep in modernity. Okay, actually I don't agree with that. I think that was a weird way to say this. This is written by somebody else who reviewed the book, so the back is just kind of excerpts of reviews, and I disagree with that last statement. But that first sentence, sleep is a standing affront to capitalism. Yeah, that is the argument of the book. And 24/7 is a stand-in for this idea of round-the-clock consumption and production in today's world. Totally. So, that's a little bit about what this book is about. I don't enjoy... The reason why I took issue with that is because I don't think this book is really bringing the idea of human adults sleep less to the forefront, and that's in here as a statement, but I really don't think that's quite the point. I think rather what's being emphasized is sleep as an idea, what it means in relationship to capitalism. That's the interesting thing about this book, and I want to talk about that. I want to go through some parts of the book and maybe read some passages and just share right off the bat, the way that he's setting up his argument, he says it is only recently that the elaboration, the modeling of one's personal and social identity has been reorganized to conform to the uninterrupted operation of markets, information networks, and other systems. So, he's saying here, basically, that, really, we're modeling ourselves and our lives to fit these networks, to fit this new kind of 24/7 capitalism, and not the other way around. We're not modeling capitalism to fit us and our biological needs. It's the other way around. And we know the way in which the technology first facilitates the way that we perform our personality. You think of TikTok and the video limit. So the limit built into TikTok dictates how we can perform. The time limit on our performance. Whether our performance is video, photo. Think of the Instagram carousel, right? So, one's personal and social identity conforms to other systems, information networks, and markets. I agree with that. I think that's really true. He says, though, a 24/7 environment has the semblance of a social world, but it is actually a non-social model of mechanic performance and a suspension of living that does not disclose the human cost required to sustain its effectiveness. So, I think that's like a good way he sets up the book, and you can kind of get a feel for his writing style, which is definitely academic, but it's not like totally opaque. It's not inaccessible. So I really appreciated that about this book. He makes a common argument about capitalism that the 24/7 concept alludes to its never-endingness, that there's never an end point, there's never enough, it never stops. You always need to be buying, there always needs to be a need, and that need is never fulfilled. It's important for capitalism that need is never really fulfilled, and that different needs always give way to others all the time. And we constantly need to be both producers and consumers to keep the machine running. That, of course, leads to exhaustion. And sleep is this biological need, right? We can't help it. We need sleep, and it interrupts this thing we have built, this system we've built. Sleep interrupts that. And so we have technology that helps, because technology doesn't sleep. We can have programs running in the background at night. We have automated systems that do things for us. And as we're seeing now, it's 2023, there's the potential for robots that don't need sleep, who can maybe do tasks for us, or AI that doesn't need sleep, that can do tasks for us, that can write, generate images, etc., etc. So we've also got the shift workers, and we can take turns sleeping, take turns such that the thing keeps running and we just keep going because we can't slow down. Coffee. Now, I really like those ideas read this book. I think this is one of my first works on politics I ever read, or about society, that questioned society. And I resonated with it. I really enjoyed it. Because I think, let me check when this book was written, but like I wasn't on TikTok yet, you know what I mean? Okay, 2013. So if you think back to 2013, all of this stuff has been like really recent, you know what I mean? And when I first read this, back when this book was pretty new, and I hadn't read a lot of criticisms yet. And I thought, oh my gosh, yeah, like I never thought about it like that, where we are having to squeeze into a narrow box, and that box is defined by the technology we use, and how maybe that is a bit incompatible with our biology. So I appreciate that sentiment a lot. He says that sleep is this thing where nothing of value can really be extracted from it. So that's why it's kind of the affront to capitalism, is because you can't participate in capitalism when you're asleep, can you? I wonder. Yeah, he says this sentence right here, makes it very clear. Sleep is an uncompromising interruption of the theft of time from us by capitalism. And he goes on to talk about that time theft, what that really means. Because at this point, he's not talking about kind of the grind of a shipyard in which you've got human beings and machines and software all working together to literally move goods around. He's not talking about that. What he goes on to talk about more is the idea of platforms. And there's a book I have called Platform Capitalism, which spends, like its own, 100-something pages talking just about that topic. But he mentions that as well. He mentions this idea of what doesn't cease is the kind of performative social media part of our lives, and that doesn't stop and can lead to exhaustion. Sleep, at this point in the book, turns into really the idea of rest and kind of privacy. If you think about sleep, what I gathered from this book is like sleep is something that is really private and happens in the home, and it's kind of our time to be off, is home time, bedtime. And so sleep is kind of this private thing that it doesn't involve economics. It's just us being us, and we go to bed and we dream and we have time to ourselves. Basically, the book is saying that we have less time to ourselves, even in our waking life. There's this concern for our performance on the internet, or just the wheel of consumption, and we don't really get breaks from it. I think that has maybe been proven true as a theory, because this book, written in 2013, was before the pandemic, and I think in quarantine we all had our version of a pause. At least those of us who were privileged enough to not have to work on the front lines of anywhere. I think there was a whole group of us, myself included, that just had to stop doing what we were doing. At the time I was in school, and it was a break, and in that break you can draw new conclusions and see things differently because you're not going all the time. So much of our lives, he's arguing, is done on autopilot because we're just navigating the system that we've built for ourselves. We don't have too much time to think and draw novel conclusions, think creatively about the world that we live in. And I definitely found some of that to be true in the quarantine. He describes it as routinized, habitual, or trance-like behavior. So these are kind of like states of lower self-awareness, and we're just going through life. So sleep is a bit of a metaphor for like, like I think in order to be awoken to something, the idea of like you're coming out of a sleep, you're coming out of a slumber, a time of not being critical, not paying attention, you're on autopilot. And so when you get a minute to rest, you can then awaken from slumber. He says, in this sense, awakening is a form of decisionism, the experience of a redemptive moment that seems to disrupt historical time, in which an individual undergoes a self-transforming encounter with a previously unknown future. That's kind of cool. I like that phrase, an encounter with an unknown future. You didn't know it existed until you were able to see it. Yeah. I think that's really cool. And of course, he's just saying society's not set up to allow that. The opposite. The last thing I'm gonna quote from this book is kind of long, but I think it's worth talking about. He says, individual habituation to these tempos, the 24/7 tempos, has had devastating social and environmental consequences and has produced a collective normalization of the ceaseless displacement and discarding because loss is continually created. He's talking about the loss of like you're constantly burying your past by living in the present all the time and constantly ingesting new media, new everything. Because loss is continually created, an atrophied memory ceases to recognize it as such. So, you don't even know you're losing things. Your memory is becoming atrophied as you keep kind of running on this rat wheel, That's an interesting effect and worth thinking about, I think. The primary self-narrative of one's life shifts in its fundamental composition. Instead of a formulaic sequence of places and events associated with family, work, and relationships, the main thread of one's life story now is the electronic commodities and media services through which all experience has been filtered, recorded, or constructed. Wow. Because of the infinity of content accessible 24/7, there will always be something online more informative, surprising, funny, diverting, impressive than anything in one's immediate actual circumstances. Pretty deep stuff. And then he says, the absolute abdication of responsibility for living is indicated by the titles of the many best-selling guides that tell us with a grim fatality the 1,000 movies to see before we die, the 100 tourist destinations to visit before we die, the 500 books to read before we die. So, it's kind of grim. But definitely ideas worth thinking about. Something I want to say as I've been reading more of these types of books, these kind of theory books, is that for me, that kind of extreme language, of course, it feels hyperbolic to me, or it feels like it's really driving home an emotional point. And I find it easy to take some steps back from certain tones that I read and think, well, no, like, there's more gray area. There's more gray to these ideas. But I think indulging in the exercise of, like, taking these kind of extreme statements about the world, like, sitting in their hyperbolic nature, or really just kind of feeling the weight of them, is helpful because it delivers an emotional impact. And I think kind of that is an important exercise, but so is kind of coming back to the gray area. But sometimes you have to shine a really bright, loud spotlight on something in order to get people to notice it. So I think language like that is useful, although I could see that it could be off-putting to some people because it's more negative and doesn't leave a lot of room for the ways in which human nature can be brought into these systems. The overall stance is that there is sleep, there is human biology on one hand, and then there's the systems on the other, and they're incompatible. And that we need to, his argument ultimately, is that we need to use sleep and dreaming to envision a better world, a non-capitalist world. And so, maybe you're the type of person who believes in capitalism can be reformed, or maybe you believe it must be done away with. I think either way, the ideas in this book are worth sitting with and engaging with because they're pretty interesting, and I think the book has aged well for being written in 2013. I think the pandemic and the quarantine really puts this book in a new light. It makes me see it different. I read it before, and then I read it again after, and I thought, there's definitely something to this. If anything, the ideas in the book are only becoming more relevant, is what I noticed. I think the time right now is pretty right for these types of theory books. Yeah. I hope I've understood this book correctly. I'm actually never sure, but I got something out of it, personally. I feel like I reached an understanding with it. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed this theory video. I have a lot of little books I've read, a lot of them from Verso Publishing, that I want to make videos about and just present like this is what I think they're about. And hopefully that's relaxing. Yeah. Thank you for spending this video with me, and I hope to see you